I'm Dr. Christy, and this is Climbing Fish Parenting, practical parenting strategies in 20 minutes or less. I'm a psychologist and behavior analyst, and I work with exhausted, overwhelmed parents who feel like they've tried everything and nothing works. If you're listening to this while folding the laundry, hiding in your car, or wishing bedtime would just end already, you're in the right place. Today, we're talking about the pool, the beach, whatever's left of camp season, the places that are supposed to be the easy, fun part of summer and somehow keep ending in tears anyway. By the end of this episode, you'll know why more fun time isn't the same as more good day, how to spot your kid's specific tank running low before the meltdown hits, and what to actually do and not do when you misjudge it anyway. Ready to transform your parenting journey? Let's dive in. Today, I want to take you to the community pool on a Saturday afternoon. We're going to look at two families. Family one packs up and leaves after about 40 minutes. Their daughter's smiling, a little pink from the sun, tired in the good way. Everyone gets in the car without incident. Family two stays a full 4 hours. Snacks, sunscreen reapplication, the whole production. And they leave in a full meltdown. Their son sobbing in the parking lot, completely unable to explain what's wrong. The day that was supposed to be fun, ending in the exact thing everyone was trying to avoid. If you'd only seen the two families arrived, you'd have guessed it would have gone the other way. The family that stayed 4 hours looked, from the outside, like they were more prepared, like they were having the better day. More time in the water, more activities, more of everything that's supposed to make a pool day good. Here's what I want you to take from this before we go any further. The problem was never the pool. It was the dose. I think most of us carry around an assumption we've never actually questioned. More time doing a fun thing equals a better day. More time at the pool, more hours at the beach, more activities packed into the same afternoon. For a kid who's wired differently, that math doesn't hold. A pool isn't just fun. It's also a significant sensory and regulatory load. Sun, noise, temperature shifts, unpredictable movement of other kids, the constant low-grade vigilance of being in and around water, wet clothes, the transition in and out of the water itself. All of that is happening at the same time as the fun part. And every single bit of it is drawing from the same tank of capacity, whether the activity is fun or not. The family that left after 40 minutes wasn't limiting their kids' fun. They were reading the tank accurately, and they stopped before it hit empty. The family that stayed 4 hours wasn't giving their kid more of a good thing. They were watching the tank drain the entire time, and they didn't know what had happened until it had already emptied out completely in the parking lot. The meltdown at hour 4 wasn't about anything that happened at hour 4. It was the accumulated cost of every hour that came before, finally showing up all at once. Let's get specific, because it's overstimulating is true, but not very useful on its own. Here's what's actually accumulating, and what it tends to look like while it's happening, so you have something real to watch for, not just a category to nod along to. First up is sensory input that never lets up. Sun on skin, water, wet fabric, sand in uncomfortable places. The constant background noise of a crowded pool or beach. None of it turns off. At home, sensory input comes in waves, with breaks in between. At the pool, it's continuous for as long as you're there. Picture a kid about 90 minutes into a pool day. He's still playing, still laughing even. But if you watch closely, you'd notice he's starting to do this thing where he tugs at the corner of his swimsuit every few minutes, like it's suddenly bothering him in a way it wasn't at the start. He flicks water off his hands more than he needs to. When another kid brushes past him getting out of the pool, he flinches slightly, more than the moment really called for. None of that is new information arriving. It's the same sun, the same wet fabric, the same background noise that's been there since he got in. What's changed is his capacity to absorb it without reacting. An hour ago, a wetsuit tag against his skin was nothing. Now it's registering as something to manage. By hour 3, this is a kid who suddenly can't stand the way his towel feels, or announces out of nowhere that he hates the smell of the pool, in a tone that sounds like the pool personally wronged him. It didn't. The pool hasn't changed one bit since he got in. His capacity has. The next up is unpredictability of other kids. A pool is full of other children moving in ways your child can't predict or control. Splashing, running past, cannonballing nearby. A ball coming out of nowhere. For a kid who relies on predictability to feel steady, that's a lot of unplannable input to track, hour after hour. Here's a different kid. Same pool, same afternoon. She started the day diving for pool rings, laughing every time she came up with one, completely unbothered by the chaos of other kids around her. Around hour 2, something shifts. She starts staying closer to the wall. She starts asking more than she used to. Is it my turn? Or, wait, who's going next? Checking in on rules that were obvious to her an hour ago. What's happening isn't that the other kids have gotten more chaotic. They're doing exactly what they were doing at noon. What's changed is that she spent 2 hours worth of attention tracking every splash, every kid cannonballing nearby, every ball that came flying from a direction she didn't expect. And that tracking has a cost, even when none of it actually hurt her or interrupted her. By the time you're getting ready to leave, this can look like a kid who's suddenly rigid about a rule nobody's breaking, insisting loudly that it's not fair someone cut the line, when 30 minutes ago the exact same thing happened and she didn't even notice. Or maybe she did it herself. She's not more sensitive to unfairness. She's out of the bandwidth it takes to let small, unpredictable things roll off her. Next up is that constant low-grade vigilance around the water itself. Even a confident swimmer's nervous system is doing real work just managing the physical demands and safety awareness that water requires. That's baseline effort your child is spending before anything social or sensory even enters the picture. This one tends to show up as fatigue that looks purely physical. Heavier movements, more time resting at the pool's edge, less initiative to start new games, and it's easy to read as just tired from swimming, when it's really the vigilance cost catching up on top of everything else being tracked. There's also the physical demands. Oftentimes, kids are having so much fun in the water that they don't even realize how much effort it is to stay afloat, to move around. Running in water takes so much more effort than running on land. Then we have temperature and transition shifts. We're in and out of the water, sometimes at our friends' whims, sometimes at the lifeguard's whistle. Sun, then shade, warm pool water, then the shock of air on wet skin. Each shift is a small adjustment the nervous system has to make, and they're happening over and over across a long afternoon. Here's the one that catches parents off guard the most, because it looks like pure defiance. A kid who got in and out of the pool a dozen times that morning without a single complaint, happily hopping out for sunscreen, hopping back in a few minutes later, suddenly, at hour 3, refuses to get out for a bathroom break. Not a mild protest, a full plant your feet, I'm not doing it meltdown over something that was completely frictionless 2 hours earlier. The transition, it hasn't gotten any harder. Cold pool water to warm air, wet skin to a scratchy towel, standing in the sun after being submerged. That's the same physical shift it's always been. What's different is that each one of those small adjustments costs a little more than the last, because the reserve that was absorbing the cost without complaint is running low. By the end of the day, this can look like flat refusal over something genuinely minor. Putting shoes back on, walking to the car, and it's easy to read as a kid being difficult on purpose. He's not negotiating. He's out of the capacity it takes to make one more shift, even a small one. Watch for a kid who starts resisting transitions that were easy earlier in the day. More protest about getting out for a snack break. More difficulty getting back in after sitting out. That shift in how hard transitions feel is often the clearest external sign that the adjustment cost is adding up, even when the transitions themselves haven't changed at all. None of this is a reason to avoid the pool. It's a reason to stop treating how long we stay as a logistics decision and start treating it as the single biggest lever you actually have. For a lot of ADHD kids, the pool and the beach can look like the opposite problem at first. Pure joy, high energy, seemingly endless stamina for the water itself. The crash tends to come suddenly. and late because the stimulation of the water and the social energy of other kids is genuinely rewarding to a dopamine-seeking brain. The interoception piece of telling how physically exhausted they are is harder for kids with ADHD. The trouble is that reward doesn't come with a built-in warning system. The tank empties just as fast as it does for any other kid. It's just harder to see coming because everything looks like fun right up until it isn't. For a lot of autistic kids, the sensory load tends to be the dominant factor, and it's often cumulative in a way that's easy to miss from the outside. A kid can look regulated for hours and then hit a wall abruptly, because sensory tolerance often doesn't decline gradually. It holds and then drops. For kids with anxiety, the unpredictability of other children and the vigilant demands of water itself tend to be the heaviest load. A pool full of kids moving unpredictably, combined with the inherent uncertainty of water, can keep the alarm system elevated the entire time, even during moments that look, from the outside, completely calm and fun. While anxious kids can definitely be afraid of the water itself, we don't often see it that simple. We tend to hear things like, "I don't want to get water up my nose," or "I don't like playing that game because I get splashed in the face." Everything I've said so far applies to so many summer activities. Camp is one of them. But camp adds a wrinkle that the pool and the beach don't have. And if your family's deep into camp season right now, it's worth naming. At the pool or the beach, you're usually there. You're the one watching the tank, and you get to make the exit call. At camp, you're not. Someone else is reading your kids' cues all day. A counselor who may not know your kids' specific signals may have 12 other kids to track and isn't working from the same baseline you'd bring to it. The tank can run dry mid-afternoon with nobody catching it until pickup because the person watching wasn't equipped to see it the way you would. Camp also compresses the dose problem instead of solving it. A pool day has a built-in exit point. You decide when to leave. A camp day doesn't. It's 6 or 8 hours, same activities, same group, same demands. Whether your kid's tank is full or already running low that morning, there's no adjustable lever in the moment. The lever moves earlier to how your kid arrives that morning and to what happens after pickup. That's really the shift camp asks of you. Less, when do we leave? More, how do we protect the hours on either side? A kid who's spent all day somewhere he can't control the dose usually needs the after-camp hours to be genuinely low demand. Not the next activity, not the next errand, just decompression. Because he doesn't get an exit point during the day, and the tank has been draining since morning drop-off with no chance to top back up. Here's what to actually do. Decide the exit point before you go, not while you're there. This is the single biggest shift. Most families decide when to leave based on when they get tired or by watching for signs of trouble. And by the time those signs are obvious enough to act on, the tank is usually already empty and you're managing a meltdown instead of preventing one. Instead, decide in advance, based on what you already know about your kid, 45 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever the real number is for your specific child. Leave at that time. On a good day, before anything goes wrong, it's going to feel too early. That's exactly the point. Go at a lower demand time if you can. Fewer kids, less noise, less unpredictable movement. A quieter Tuesday morning at the pool is a completely different sensory experience than a packed Saturday afternoon, even though it's the exact same pool. Build in a buffer before you go. If your kid arrives already partway drained, from a rough morning, a bad night's sleep, a stressful transition to get there, the tank starts the day lower than usual, and the exit point needs to move up accordingly. The pool didn't change. What your kid brought into it did. Pack something that reduces load, not just something that adds fun. A towel to sit wrapped in during a break. Something quiet to do poolside for a few minutes mid-visit. A planned break in the shade before anyone's asking for one. These aren't consolation prizes. They're what let you extend the visit without draining the tank as fast. And here's the reframe I want to leave you with. Leaving early isn't losing. A 45-minute visit that ends with a smiling kid getting into the car is a better outcome for everyone, including you. then a 4-hour visit that ends in the parking lot in tears. The goal was never maximum time at the pool. It was a good day. And when you stop treating them as the same thing, the whole summer gets easier to plan around. Now, let's be honest about something, because I don't want to leave you with the impression that reading the tank is something you'll get right every time. You won't. I don't. You'll pick 90 minutes, and the real number that day was 60. You'll plan the exit perfectly, and then the goggles will go missing at minute 40 and cost more than the whole rest of the visit combined. Sometimes you find out the tank is empty the same way everyone does, in the parking lot, with a sobbing kid in front of an audience. So here's what to do in that moment, and just as importantly, what not to do. Job 1 is exit, not explanation. A kid whose tank is empty cannot process language, not reassurance, not reasoning, not, "What's wrong? We had such a fun day." Every word you add is one more demand on a system that has nothing left to handle demands with. Your only goals are getting to the car, getting buckled, and getting quiet. Skip the goodbye rounds. Skip the say thank you to Mrs. Chen. All of that is optional. The exit isn't. And then, this is the part I really want you to hear. The car ride home is not a teaching moment. Neither is bedtime that night. There is nothing to teach yet, because the meltdown wasn't a behavior problem. It was an empty tank. You wouldn't lecture a phone for dying at 2%. What that moment needs is the least demanding version of you. Quiet, calm, maybe a snack passed to the back seat without commentary. If there's something worth talking about. And there usually is, because next time exists. It happens the next day or much later when the tank is full again. And it's short, something like noticing together that pool days are big and that leaving earlier next time might mean the day ends better. Not a full debrief, not a review of what went wrong. One observation, offered when they can actually hear it. The misjudged dose isn't a failure of this whole approach. It's how you learn your kid's real number. Every parking lot meltdown is one data point closer to knowing whether your kid is a 45-minute kid or a 2-hour kid, as long as you treat it as information instead of as an incident. There's one objection I can hear coming, because I hear it every time I talk about leaving early. That's great for my kid who's wired differently, but his sister could stay at that pool for 6 hours, and she's furious that we always leave because of him. That's real, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. So a few things that help. If there are 2 adults, split the exit. One takes the empty tanked kid home at the right time. The other stays with the sibling for the full afternoon. It doesn't have to be dramatic or explained to death. Dad and Leo are heading out, we'll stay another hour. That's a complete sentence. If you're the only adult, set the exit by the lower tank and tell the sibling in advance, not in the moment. We're staying until 3 today. That lands completely differently at breakfast than at 2:55 poolside. And then find the sibling their long version somewhere else. A friend's pool day without their brother, a grandparent afternoon, a trade where next Saturday is built around their thing. The goal isn't identical pool time. It's that both kids get days built around what actually works for them. Because here's the frame that helps with the fairness fight. And it's worth saying out loud to your kids in whatever words fit your family. Fair doesn't mean identical. Fair means everyone gets what they need. One kid needs a shorter dose. The other needs a longer one. Making them both take the same amount isn't fairness. It's just picking which kid has the bad day. And one quiet thing to notice, the sibling who can do 6 hours is also watching how you handle this. What they learn when you read the tank, instead of pushing through, isn't "my brother gets special treatment." Over time, it's "in this family, we pay attention to what people actually need." That's not a bad thing for either of them to grow up believing. Before your next pool, beach, or camp day, pick the exit point in advance. Write it down if you have to. A specific time, decided before you leave the house, not decided in the moment based on how things are going. And notice, did leaving at that time, even though it felt early, actually produce a better ending than staying longer usually does? If camp's part of your week right now, notice something different instead. What does the hour right after pickup usually look like? And what would it look like if that hour were built around decompression instead of the next thing on the schedule? All right, that's it for today. Your kid isn't ruining pool days on purpose, and you're not failing by leaving early. The tank was draining the entire time, whether anyone could see it or not. And the families who leave happy aren't the ones with easier kids. They're the ones reading the tank instead of the clock. And if you want one strategy like this in your inbox every week, including things I never cover on the show, that's what my newsletter's for. You can sign up at climbingfishparenting.com/newsletter. That strategy I just gave you, it's the whole climbing fish philosophy in action. There's a quote, "Everybody's a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid." Your kid isn't broken. Your parenting isn't broken. Sometimes we're just asking our fish to climb trees. That's what we fix here. I'm Dr. Christy, and I'll see you next week.